Hey there, business owner. Welcome to the Entrepreneur Evolution Podcast. This is our weekly episode, and I'm so happy you are here. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the Entrepreneur Evolution Podcast. I'm your host, Annette Walter, and I am so thrilled to introduce this week's guest. We are joined by Sharon Lechter. She is a rock star entrepreneur, so wise, so kind, and she has created a global brand. And honestly, she keeps going. She keeps building her empire. And we're going to hear about that more today on our episode. To give you a quick backdrop, in 1997, Sharon co-authored the international bestseller, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. She has been a highly sought after mentor for large corporations like Disney and Time Warner, and actually served with 2 U.S. presidents as an advisor on the topic of financial literacy. As the CEO of Pay Your Family First, she has been a dedicated entrepreneur and really is helping people grow their portfolios and develop their financial IQ and access untapped potential for their personal growth and their business growth and creating a legacy. She is simply a rock star. She also wrote the book Think and Grow Rich for Women and has a new book coming out in the near future. And we're going to hear a little bit more about that. So make sure you listen, make sure you learn, and just make sure you grow and evolve with us here. Enjoy this interview with Sharon. Thanks for being here. I'll talk to you soon. Hi, Sharon. How are you?
I am fantastic. So delighted to be with you, Annette.
Oh, I am so thrilled that you are here. You are such an inspiring woman in business. You are simply so amazing and full of wisdom, and I'm really happy that you're here today. We're going to have some fun. We are joined today by Sharon Lechter. She is a keynote speaker and best-selling author and business strategist and mentor. You and a podcast host, right?
That's right. That's right.
Amazing things. Think and Grow Rich, part of the Rich Dad Poor Dad brand, and an advisor to 2 presidents. Right? And just so many amazing things that you have done along your career and journey. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Just as I've been around a long time, Annette, but yes, I've had a wonderful career and love every minute of it.
Well, there are so many wonderful things that you can share today. So tell us about the backdrop. Give us a fill in of how you got to this point, and just kind of fill us in along the way of how you arrived at this point in your life and career.
Well, I'll try and give you the Cliff Notes version because I have been around a long time, but I was a little girl. I lived in a house, a little tiny house between my mom's beauty shop, my dad's used car lot. He was retired Navy. Neither had gone to college. Neither had high school graduation. And their goal was their kids would get a college degree. But we had the beauty shop, the car lot, we had rental properties, we had orange groves, and I swore I would never be an entrepreneur. I was going to become a sophisticated professional. So I got my degree in accounting, became an accountant, started out with one of the big 8 back then firms in Atlanta, Georgia, love and life as a young single woman. And then about the ripe old age of 25, I'm going, gosh, I'm working a lot of hours and for someone else. So all of a sudden, my parents started looking smarter and smarter. And so I realized that what was in my DNA was the importance of buying, building, and creating assets. And I realized that very few people understood that. Most people chase a paycheck and literally exchange money for time. I go, let's teach people how to invest their time to create assets and let those assets work for you. And so that started my journey. I started a women's magazine. I started the talking book industry when kids didn't have any kind of electronics back in the 80s, in 1987. And we built that as a global brand. And we did that by understanding the power of association, because we said, we have this new technology. Our parents are going to trust us. They don't know who we are. So we branded with Disney, Warner Brothers, Sesame Street, Marvel Comics, and it allowed us to really expand our success very quickly. And then we moved to Arizona, and my oldest son went off to college and got into credit card debt. I was pretty mad at him, but more mad at myself because I had taught him the things that my parents had taught me. And that was December of 1992. And that's when I dedicated the rest of my life to financial literacy and financial education. Started working with school systems, hence the white hair, if you've ever tried to change something in the school system. And then fast forward a few years, I met Robert Kiyosaki. He had this idea for a board game. He'd gone to my husband with it drawn off on a piece of drafting paper. My husband's a well-known intellectual property attorney. So I met him at a beta test, and I said, Robert, this is what I'm teaching. And so I volunteered to help him commercialize it because of my contacts in the industry. We got the game done. And in that process, he said he wanted to charge $200 for the game. I said, that's kind of pricey. Maybe we should write a brochure. And that brochure was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Most people don't know that. We had no idea that it was going to take on a life of its own. And that started, he asked me to be his partner. We formed the company, and we built the Rich Dad brand around the world. We wrote 15 books together. And I took what I'd learned from the other companies and realized that brand association, I wanted to be instead of me writing big royalty checks to Disney, I wanted to build the brand that other people wanted to support. And that's what we did with Rich Dad. We had Warner Books come to us, Time Life, and we were on Oprah. Those kinds of associations are very powerful. And so it allowed us to make a big impact around the world before the internet, before Amazon, believe it or not.
Right.
And so about 2007, 10 years into the relationship, he wanted to go into franchise, and I didn't agree. We agreed with it. It wasn't a good deal for us. It was a great deal for us. It wasn't a good deal for the franchisees. So I made the decision to leave. And so that's why I tell everybody, sometimes you have to close one door in your life for other doors to open. Because a few months later, I got the call from President Bush asking me to be on the President's Advisory Council for Financial Literacy. And I served both President Bush and Obama. So equal opportunity here. And I wouldn't have gotten that call had I still been at Rich Dad. A few months later, we know what was happening in the economy in 2008. I got the call from the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And so I've written in the last 12 years 4 books with the foundation. And, to have built the largest personal finance and then to be asked to step into the world's largest personal development brand. I read Think and Grow Rich when I was 19. It's been a huge honor. And all along the way, I have my own company called Pay Your Family First, and I've had the pleasure of speaking around the world, really dedicated to providing tools to helping people really take control of their financial life. And that's kind of where I am today, still doing it.
Wow. You're amazing at really doing the Cliff's Notes version, as you said, and just drop the mic right there. How do you even... It's amazing. You're like the original almost podcaster. You're like the original Audible book. When you go back to 1987, you said, right?
Right.
And I love how you think. You are such an innovator, and you really are forward thinking. Like, it's almost like you can see 10 years into the future. Do you feel that way about yourself?
I do. I think you have to be innovative. What I teach all my clients is, successful businesses do one of two things: solve a problem or serve a need. And when I made that decision to leave public accounting, I was very successful. And I still remember going back to my condo saying, okay, doing the pros and cons didn't help me a bit. I could argue both sides. But my hand kind of took off across the top of the page and said, why not? And I think that's really still my personal mantra. Why not take the road less traveled? Why not do something that nobody else has done? Why not take that opportunity to solve a problem or serve a need? And that's where innovation comes from. So yes, I think innovation is entrepreneurship and creativity at its best.
And I love that. And really, you're taking so much of me and so much of our listeners back to that quarter life crisis when you're 25 and you're saying, okay, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Or what do I really want to do? Or is this really worth it? Right. And you really do map it out on paper. And I remember that moment in my condo where I said, I don't know if I want to work for somebody else forever. Like, I'm not really feeling this. And I was also born by an entrepreneur. And when you said it's in your DNA, it is, right? Do you fully feel that?
Well, we're not teaching our kids about money in school, which is a travesty. And so we've heard the phrase, the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, because we're learning at home. And so you and I had the opportunity. I tell entrepreneurs all the time, one of the greatest benefits is when you have children, they see it from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really an important thing. But, again, as an entrepreneur, are you a solopreneur or are you truly building a successful business? In my first book with the foundation, 3 Feet from Gold, I talk about the personal success equation. People start with their passion and their talent. Right. My passion actually came from anger because we were teaching kids about money in school. And my talent was my accounting degree, my background, and my publishing experience. And most of us stop there because we think we have to do it on our own.
Mm-hmm.
But the next step of personal success equation is times A, which is that power of association. Who do you have around you? Do you have people that are challenging you? Do you have people who are strong where you are weak? Do you have a mentor who's speeding your way to success? That's the true essence of success, is who you're surrounding yourself with. And then times A, taking action. How many times do we know what we're supposed to do and we just don't do it? And so taking the right action. And then the final element is F plus F, and that's faith. Having faith in yourself, having faith that what you're doing is needed and necessary, and having faith that you'll succeed. And I always start all my clients by going through the personal success equation, because more than likely, we're going to find areas for improvement in that power of association. Who's in your network? Who are you reaching out to? Who's guiding you? And that self-confidence. One of my most recent initiatives is Assets Are Sexy. It's an online program that I do every few months.
I love it.
Because women businesses, only 4.2% of women-owned businesses make over $1 million a year. I mean, that's a terrible number. We need to increase that. And so I'm out there to support women in doing that. And most of the time is they don't have the confidence in themselves, and they're not surrounding themselves with the right people. Mm-hmm. And for more information, I have a guide. It's at personalsuccessequation.com that people can have. It's not a sales pitch. It just helps you go through your passion, your talent, your associations, action, and faith and competence.
That's awesome. And we'll definitely drop that link in the show notes so that people can use that resource. Thank you for sharing that. Mm-hmm. And, that's an interesting statistic, and I've heard that as well. And with women business owners, do you see sometimes that it is a fear of failure or a fear of success, like getting too busy, really, to juggle it all? What's your take on that?
It's both, I think. Mm-hmm. Some people don't feel like they're good enough. They're never good. Says their fear of failure is also fear of inadequacy. Mm-hmm. and fear of asking for help. I tell people all the time, don't think of it as asking for help. Think of it as showing respect to the person that you're talking to, whether it be a mentor or someone that can help, that you can learn from. Mm-hmm. So changing the way we think about it, getting rid of that stinking thinking, and start realizing that you are good enough. Everybody, you are an expert. Nobody's been through your successes or your failures. Nobody's had your learning opportunities, but you're still here for a reason. You can help other people coming behind you and speed their way to success. And so, but a lot of times it comes from that thinking around money from when we were kids. We were growing up, and every time the topic of money came up, we can't afford it, pinch your pennies, money doesn't grow on trees. And so we grow up with this money negative, and that's in our subconscious. And that's where that scarcity mindset comes from, right. That fear of failure, that fear, once you actually have success, the fear of losing it. Mm-hmm. So there's a fear of success and there's a fear of failure. And all of that comes from things that are in our subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm. Right. Those false negative beliefs that really are bred in us almost.
Yes.
So how do you help someone through the, my dad used to say, go shake the money tree out back, see if anything, falls off of it. Right. And, it just is ringing true, everything that you're saying. And I actually had a really deep conversation with this the other day. And especially when you get married and there's a different perspective, husband, wife, about how they were raised, the relationship with money, whether you talked about money, whether you didn't talk about money. So what's your perspective and your advice to people out there with their relationship right now with money? What's a healthy relationship and outlook on money?
Well, I think it starts by identifying what your philosophy is around money and what that negativity and the scarcity. Once you acknowledge it, you can actually start releasing it. And when I talk to young couples or even married couples that are kind of arguing over money, I have them go out on a money date and talk about what how their parents dealt with money. Because usually you can find a source of that tension from their parents. And it can actually turn into humor and healing, because you can find out, sometimes we overreact. We don't know where it came from. The same issue is related to money. And the first step is to, what are you filling your brain with, all right? Just a few months ago, I launched a program where I'm sending out daily messaging for people, abundance tips and mentorship, so that what do you, particularly with what's happening in the world around us right now, there's 99% negativity. You got to kind of get rid of that and start replacing it with positive messaging, and know that don't wait for that light at the end of the tunnel. Become your own beacon of light. And when you become a beacon of light, others will be attracted to you. So it's important for you to say, what's going on in my mind? And when you get up in the morning, remind yourself what problem you solve, what needs you serve, because that takes it outside of yourself, because you're being of service, and it gives you that energy to keep going.
And it keeps your heart full, and it keeps you really pulling through the day and going through the day. So as our business owners and entrepreneurs out there, and our leaders are out there, and they're toying with the idea of expanding their brand, their personal brand, and they're looking at podcasting, and they're looking at books, and they're looking at, well, I guess pre-COVID, being a speaker, a keynote. You have done them all so well, and just so magically well. Really, you've nailed them all. What would be your advice if they are looking to dip their feet into one of those venues?
Well, the greatest way to financial success is through having income producing assets. That's the only way to do it. And so what you see is me walking the talk, creating assets, ongoing assets that people can find benefit from. Many of them are free, because it's a way for me to build the community. Others are there. I have online courses that help people at their own pace, that they can do, that I've basically created. And so anybody that wants to have that legacy, you need to think of, how are you creating that legacy? Are you doing it through video? Are you doing it through the written word books? Are you doing it through podcasts? Be able to share your wisdom so that others can benefit from it. And you need the overall strategy, because too many people try and hit one thing, and it's like they do a rifle approach. Well, you actually need to have the overall strategy. Each one of those elements you just talked about are tactics and tools. But what's your overall strategy? I launched the Play Big movement a few years ago, really sharing the things that I've done in my career and helping others see the bigger picture, understanding that power of association. And it's kind of like the three-legged stool. You can have the greatest book, the greatest product, the greatest service. You can be the greatest advocate, the greatest salesperson, the greatest speaker, but that's only two legs of the three-legged stool. The third leg, most people forget about, and that's building the business around the book, around the product, around the service, making sure that the business has every aspect around it. And the platform, you can write the greatest book, but if you don't have a way to tell people about it, you're not going to get the results. And so it's important. So it's not the sexy part about it, but it's the successful part about it. I teach people how to build the business around what they're doing, so that it can be not just successful, but sustainable, scalable, and saleable. So
absolutely, the successful, scalable, and saleable, I think, is one of the most big important things that people miss. So you're on video. I love your videos. I love video too. I think it's a great platform. Oftentimes business owners, and I'm sure you hear this, is that they have a fear of being on video. They don't like it. They don't like seeing themselves. They don't like the sound of their voice. Did you have that ever? Did you have that fear?
I can't stand the sound of my voice. Most of my videos, I have my team go over. Every once in a while, they make me look at it and I go, oh no. So it's the messaging, all right? So being on video is just like being in front of a live audience. You just happen to have it so that it can live on beyond that one time and one experience. Anybody that's afraid of it needs to just start doing it and get some training, because I train people in media all the time, and training somebody how to go on a big stage, all right, is different than in this little box, all right? And so you need to understand how the inflection, the tone of your voice, your eyesight, making sure you're looking at the camera, not down here, where the little pictures are.
Right.
And so understanding how to project yourself and how to relate to the people that are watching you is very important.
And so tell me this, you just have so much confidence, and it really is contagious. So what keeps you going? What motivates you? How do you keep on keeping on?
Well, I don't need to be doing what I'm doing now. I've been financially free for many, many years. But as a little girl, my dad would ask me every night, Sharon, have you added value to someone's life today? Mm-hmm. So my entire self-worth and everything is reignited every single day by asking myself if I have added value to someone's life today. And wouldn't the world be a better place if everybody thought about adding value to other people's lives? Mm-hmm. And so I tried slowing down a few years ago. It didn't go very well. I was pretty miserable. It wasn't feeding me. And so that's why I launched the Play Big movement, because I said, I got to play the bigger game again. And so that's where I've been. And I want to help. And it's a Facebook group, Play Big Movement with Sharon Lechter, as well as the name of the podcast that you just mentioned, Play Big Movement Podcast. And it really is sharing the things that I'm doing so other people can do it as well, to help them. And then a community on the Facebook group of people. I don't promote it at all. It's just been growing organically of people who want the information and want to support each other. And I do weekly broadcasts in that group as well.
And don't you just love that when it grows organically and the community is really becoming a bigger community through the value there, through the connection, through the real purpose. Mm-hmm. And it's a great feeling when it grows organically. So as a author and podcast host, what books do you like to read, and what podcasts do you listen to?
Well, tons. I don't have enough hours in the day to read and listen to everything that I want to. But as and it really is, if you think about how to overcome fear and how to create success, it's allowing other people that have gone before you or people that are out there doing it to share their wisdom. And sometimes you're listening to a podcast and you get distracted, but your subconscious is still listening. So it's really good to continue feeding your mind with, and there's so many. I can't even limit, there's so many good ones out there. And you'll find the one's going to speak to you and the other one's not. So just keep trying them out and find the ones that are going to help elevate you.
There's a cute one. My son listens to Tracks to Relax as he's trying to fall asleep. And it's a meditation app or a podcast actually. And last night I went in there to check on him, and it was like, hold the stone and throw the stone and your success will ripple in the pond. And it was like, because how you go to sleep and your subconscious brain, it becomes what you dream about, becomes what you wake up and become. And it was just so cute to see. Every age really can benefit from listening, from reading, and just from continuing to grow and continue to evolve. So you've given so much advice. Oh my goodness. So many good nuggets here. What do you tell startup entrepreneurs? What's your advice there?
Well, start with understanding your mission. All right. What is your mission? What is the problem you're solving? And make sure you really give yourself an assessment of where you find joy and how you make money, and where you make sure you have people on your team who are strong where you're weak. But don't try to go it alone. That power of association. Surround yourself with other people. And pay attention to what your environment. Are you hanging around people who are like questioning you every step of the way, and they think you go get a job? Limit them, and surround yourself with people who want to celebrate what you're doing and want to support you in creating success. Because there's so much drag if there are people around you, and many times it's your own family. And it's not so much that they don't want you to succeed, but they see you moving forward and doing something, and they're not. Mm-hmm. And so it's a reaction. They're trying to pull you back so they feel better, right? And once you recognize that, you can kind of say, okay, fine, release them. And you continue doing what you're doing, because as soon as you truly have success, they're going to be your biggest cheerleader, before they ask for a raise, but a loan, that's the problem there. But, we can't change our family, but we can limit the time we spend with them if they are not supportive and being cheerleaders for us.
It's true. Sometimes the closest people to you, friends or family, can be your toughest critics. Mm-hmm. And what's the quote? It goes, they'll ask you why you're doing it, and then they'll ask you how you did it, right? Once you get there, kind of thing. So as you're talking about assets and assets working for you, and I have Think and Grow Rich for Women on my nightside table. I reference it all of the time, and I'm rereading Rich Dad Poor Dad right now. And talk to me about real estate and real estate investments, both residential and commercial. What's your perspective there?
Yeah, well, right now is a great time to be investing in real estate.
Yes.
If it's the right real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And this is my own personal opinion, but right now I'm glad that my husband and I are out of commercial office space, because that's something that I think who knows, is going to be a very soft landing, and it's going to be a long time to see that back to where it was at the beginning of this year. But residential rental is almost recession proof. People need a place to live, and a lot of people are going to be losing their homes or looking for other way. I would not be investing in student housing right now, because what's going to happen with universities, right? Mm-hmm. And so industrial is strong, because so much manufacturing is moving back to the States. So that's a strong area. So you have to look at what areas you want to invest in and say, how can I best leverage, because a lot of people talk about diversification through paper assets, but diversification should be across asset classes: paper, real estate, business. And so another area is, if I'm going to do residential rental, I'm going to make sure I do it in a landlord-friendly state, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of states out there that if your client, your tenant stops paying, that tenant can stay forever. So you need to make sure that you're in a state that's going to give you the rights to be able to re-rent that if the tenant stops paying rent. And so those are kind of some of the elements that we're looking at. I'm in the middle of doing some real estate courses and education for folks to really understand that this is the time to start looking at it.
Absolutely. And I'm really glad you touched on all that. And I think painfully, people are learning right now in this season that what landlord states are and aren't in sync with that rule that you mentioned. And that's a very important point, especially if people are new to that space and jump on that bandwagon. Do you suggest it to be a leading source of their income, or once they've established wealth, once they've established their flow of income, to go with the real estate route?
Well, that depends. As an accountant, I'm never going to give advice like this.
Right.
It depends on your personal financial situation. But I will say that the wealthiest people in the world all either made their wealth through real estate or hold it in real estate. And now you have a lot of ways to invest in real estate that is through the market that didn't exist many years ago. So I would look at it. A lot of young couples, I tell them, buy a rental house near the university that will be paid off. Your tenants are paying all the mortgage until your kid is 18, is paid off, it's ready to go. You either can sell the property and use that for their education, or you can continue renting it and use the cash flow. That may not be depending on what happens with our universities, but that's something, we think of innovative ways that you can use real estate to help you build your wealth, because, the economics of residential rental properties is that you put 20% down, give or take. Bank is giving you 80%, but you have 100% of the ownership. You have 100% of the appreciation. You have 100% of the tax benefits. So it's a pretty good, sweet deal. And you have the ability to, leverage that as it continues growing up in value. You have the opportunity to grow and be able to get, if you have a positive cash flow property of $500 a month, how many of those can you afford to get? As many as you can, right? And so continue to building your portfolio. But I also say, don't try to do multiple real estate deals at once. All right, learn one type of investing and perfect that. Don't try to do commercial office. residential rental, apartment, multifamily. You be careful what you're doing and make sure you have the right people on your team.
Mm-hmm. It is so evident how that chapter initially, when you did go out to corporate world, has really been a solid foundation for you and your knowledge and your expertise, and how it really complements the knowledge and the DNA really, and has blended together and created such a beautiful path and a beautiful life for you and your family. It just is wonderful to hear more about it. So what's to come? What do you feel? What do you want to ask the universe and put out there for you personally? What are you looking forward to?
I'm continuing to serve people as best I can. I have multiple different programs. I do have a new book coming out.
Oh, great.
Called Exit Rich.
Great. Tell us about it.
Yes, it's coming. It's actually available electronically right now if you wanted to order it, exitrichbook.com.
Okay.
It's been picked up by Inc. magazine, and it comes back to so many people think they are business owners and they try to sell it and realize there's no value because they haven't done what they needed to put that third leg of that three-legged stool on. And so this book I co-authored with the top female business broker in the country, Michelle Tucker. And so she's the tactician of the things that she does to get companies ready for sale. Yes. I'm the strategist, understanding as a mentor, as an investor, these are what things that we're looking for. And so it's a really good tag team to help people understand the fundamentals of building a strong business that will increase in value because you've done what you need to make it scalable. And then obviously, when you decide to sell it, you have everything in place. So it's not a mad dash at the end to try and get documents in and agreements. It helps you do it along the way so you can have the strongest and most successful company possible.
Yes, and it'll make that due diligence phase so much more enjoyable.
Yes.
And less hairy for sure. Well, I can't wait to read that and or listen to it. It's great. And it sounds like a great connection, a great partnership. And is it geared solely towards women business owners, or is that towards male and female? Okay.
Oh, no. It is. Steve Forbes he said, so many business owners end up leaving equity on the table. This book will be a gold mine for entrepreneurs. So.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Congratulations on that. That's amazing.
Thank you. I'm pretty excited about it. It was going to be out earlier this year, but obviously with COVID, the actual publication of the book is January of 2021. But again, when we talk about innovation, we created it so that if you pre-order it now through exitrichbook.com, we will automatically send you the electronic version so that you have the information now, and then you'll get the hardcover in January when it's released. So.
Great. I can't wait to get my hands on that. So what, through the season of COVID, as we are wrapping up here, what are you taking with you and what are you leaving behind?
Well, that's a great question. I think, we realize that all the clothes in our closet, we don't need very much anymore, do we? And last year I was on the road for 80% of the time, the last several years. All right. And I've been home. I've been back on the road the last 2 weeks. And it's like, you know what? And I loved it. I've always loved it. I love speaking live to groups, and I've missed that. So I've enjoyed being back doing that. But I also realized that I enjoy being home too. And I'd kind of gotten to the point where I didn't see my house too much. So what I've taken from it is a redefinition of how I'm going to be spending my time in the future, and retooling. And really, I had already started 2 years ago to build more of my online offerings and presence. And so the timing was pretty good with COVID hitting, but we're still filling that out and looking at how we can support people, because I do high-level mentoring and it's not inexpensive. And so we've taken my high-level mentoring program and we've created what we call the Play Big course. They're all available on SharonLechter.com. And so that course takes people from being financially confident to all the way up to being financially free, understanding brand association, understanding creating yourself as an authority. And that as an authority, then you have the opportunity to, you're an authority when people are calling you, and you're not calling others. Right. And so I want to support people in creating that next best life, because that Play Big movement is being number one in your field, living your legacy, and creating maximum impact.
I love it. I love it all. And I'm so glad that you're able to have that perspective and to do a little bit of both the brand, the content, the repurposing, and the programs that you are building online are phenomenal. And you're doing such a great job navigating that space and building that space and becoming and owning it, an authority, right, in that space, which is so amazing. And I do have to say, you are such a gracious host when the Women's Presidents Organization was in Arizona, right?
Yep.
You love to entertain, right? Have you missed that?
Yep. That's absolutely. We had a beautiful evening here with the leadership, and it was fantastic. And yes, one of my greatest joys was serving on the National Board for Women Presidents Organization for over 20 years. And I just think it's a great organization for women supporting women. And we need that power of association. It's a perfect example.
It really is. It really is the power of lifting each other up, the network, and surrounding yourself. And it really keeps everybody going.
Yep.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your contribution. And we will make sure that we drop all of the ways to find you in the show notes. I'm grateful. And I just am so honored that we had this time together. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Annette. And thank you for doing this. I think it's fantastic. And the more of us out there supporting other people, it's not a time to be competitive. It's a time to be collaborative and everybody lift each other up. So thank you for hosting me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll talk to you soon, Sharon. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye. Wow. What an episode. Did you learn something new? I hope so. I am so happy you were able to be here with us today. I'd love to hear from you. Leave me a review and I will be sure to read it and respond to you. Also, if you'd like to email me, my email address is yourock@ievolveconsulting.com. Hit subscribe, and every Tuesday you'll get notification when the next episode drops. We really have some amazing interviews and tips in the future. Anything you need, I'm here for you. I want you to keep your momentum. I want to help you stay accountable. I want you to stay inspired. I want you to evolve. So please let me know what you need, and I'd love to hear from you. Take care until next time.